Hi, my name is Benny van Wijngaarden. When I was young, my father used to be a woodworker or a carpenter. And he could make everything out of wood, like furniture, doors, windows, or even build a complete house. And by the time I was 10 years old, I joined him on Saturdays to the carpentry workshop. And I played around and cleaned the workshop and cleaned the kitchen and made coffee for my dad and his colleagues. And later on, I started woodworking myself. And being a test automation engineer for years now, I realized I learned a lot about the classic craftsmanship of woodworking, construction work, and house building. I think we can learn lots of those craftsmen in our profession of test automation. And I'd like to share some of these lessons, 7 lessons, 7 similarities between house building and test automation with you. Go with me. The first lesson, the first similarity I'd like to share with you is that we have to work along a line. When I joined my father in his carpentry workshop, on a certain moment I'd like to start woodworking myself. And I asked my father, can I saw some wood? Well, he said, okay, my son, it's okay. He gave me some wood, together with a handsaw, and he said, I'll draw a line on it for you and try to saw the piece of wood along the line. So I started sawing the wood and tried to saw along the line, and then doing that I wondered, well, should I save the line or should I saw it away? So I asked my father, Dad, should I save the line when sawing? And he said, when you're a craftsman, you should save half of the line. So I tried to save half the line and I showed it to my father. I said, is it okay? Do you like it? Well, he said, I'll draw a new line and try to saw along that line some more. So try to stick to the line. Okay, so I tried it again and sawing, and then I showed it to him again and I asked, is this better? Well done, he said, it's better. And then he said to me, when you are able to work along a line, then you're a craftsman. And this also applies to most other professions. And that made me thinking, being a test automation engineer now, okay, so working along a line makes you a craftsman. And I think this is the first principle of being a craftsman also in test automation. Try to get a line to work along and stick to that line. Of course, you have some flexibility to go left or right and to decide with your team to change the line, but try to get a line, to agree on some way of working and stick to that plan. The second similarity between house building and test automation is that size matters. Are you going to build a tiny house or are you going to build a villa? The choice influences the preparation you have to do. When building a villa, you might need a crane, you need more material. So the size of your test automation project matters in terms of what you need to prepare, what you need to take care of. When you are going to create a large test automation project, you might need to be prepared for crew changes during the project. You might need to be prepared for new versions of tools during your test automation project. Of course, you cannot predict the exact size of your project upfront, but you do need to be aware of how large is the project going to be, approximately. The third similarity between house building and test automation that I want to mention is that you have to build a foundation. Everyone knows when building a house, you have to create a solid foundation. Often it's made of concrete, which will get very hard, nothing will happen to the house. But when building a house without a solid foundation, well, on a short term, nothing seems to be wrong. But later on, cracks will appear in the walls, or the house might collapse at all. Well, the same applies to test automation. You have to think about and you have to create a solid foundation. What do I mean with a solid foundation for test automation? Well, the foundation of your test automation framework is not only having the right tool, but it consists of several elements. I'd like to mention 4. The first aspect of your foundation has to be a modular setup of your framework. You have to create reusable components that can be used by several test cases again and again. That simplifies your maintenance and lowers your maintenance costs enormously. The second point I'd like to mention is use a build server or a CI/CD pipeline like Jenkins or Bamboo or whatsoever. There are several tools, but you should use a tool that's able to run your test scripts over the night unattended, so you can see the results when logging in the morning. Another aspect of a good foundation is that you have to have trained team members. Don't start with test automation out of the blue without any knowledge. You should get some training to get familiar with the pitfalls of test automation, to get familiar with the tool you're going to use, or to help you with the right tool choice. So you have to train yourself and your team when starting with test automation. And last but not least, you should use version control. I've been working very often with Git, but that's not the only one. You can also use Subversion and whatsoever. But you should use any version control system because it's not doable to exchange your changes throughout the team without a version control system. That's a good foundation when starting with test automation. The fourth similarity between house building and test automation is that you have to know the right order. No one is going to build a house starting with the roof, right? You all know. But in test automation, I've seen several projects starting the wrong way around. I've seen many test automation projects where people just started recording the manual test steps using a tool, just recording it for later playback. But that's not real test automation. That's the wrong way around. When doing that, you'll run into the fairy tale of record and playback. Well, what's that? The fairy tale of record and playback. I'll explain. Imagine a salesman from a tool vendor standing in front of a room full of managers and other decision makers giving a demo of a test automation tool. And the salesman says, I'm going to record all my actions. So he clicks around started the recording function of his tool and stops the recording and says, now I'm going to play back all the actions. And he starts playback and everything is repeated he just did. And everyone in the room is convinced, yeah, we should buy this tool. Well, that's the fairy tale of record and playback. Because when doing this in real life, a recorded script might play back well directly after recording. But when a new version of your system under test is released, the recorded scripts might not work anymore. And also another aspect of this problem is you have to separate the data and the script code. But when recording your scripts, it's not separated at all. They are all in one file, the data and the script. So several problems occur when recording your scripts using record and expecting them to play back well afterwards. The fifth similarity between house building and test automation is that you have to think about maintenance. When building a house, you have to think about what materials are you going to use. Inside, outside, what floor type are we going to use, what wall decoration are we going to use, or for example on the outside it's going to be bricks or wood, and if it's going to be wood on the outside, what are we going to do to maintain it? Are we going to paint? If you don't, it might be rotten by the time you live 10 years in your house. So you have to think about who's going to maintain and what are the maintainability costs of our test automation framework. Having chosen the right tool, I'll come later to that, you have to start writing your test automation scripts. And as said before, you have to write modular scripts that can be reused. And those scripts require maintenance to keep running throughout the time. Who's going to maintain them? Is the one who made them still in your team? And what time will it take to maintain them? So you have to create a picture of what are our maintainability costs of the test framework. It's very important. The sixth similarity between house building and setting up your test automation is that you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to know what you are going to create to know what steps have to be taken. Does it mean you have to know every detail up front? Well, maybe not, but when building a house, drawings are made enabling construction workers to make construction calculations, to make price calculations and so on. Well, when building your test automation framework, you do have to know what you want to reach, to know what steps are going to be taken and what roughly the costs are. It's important to know what you're going to make. As shown here, you have to make a mental creation up front of what you're going to physically or in code create. So the mental creation requires discussion, requires some design and some architecture maybe. You have to decide on what are we going to create, how are we going to reach it. So you have a goal, but a goal without a plan is just a dream. So you don't have to dream about your goal, but you have to plan the way to your goal. So know what you're going to make, know what your goal is, and that enables you to make the right choices on tools, on planning, on team members, on skills, on training. So that's the similarity between construction work, where drawings are made of the building that's going to be created, and the same applies to test automation. You have to, I don't say you have to draw something, but you have to draw it in mind, or maybe in an architecture document or in a design, to make clear what you're going to make. The seventh similarity between house building and test automation is that you have to use the right tools. Last year we had built our new house, and during the building process I went there very often, and I saw the construction engineers using tools I never saw before. But those tools enabled them to do their work most efficient. Those tools were fit for purpose. In test automation, there are many tools. But what's the right tool for your team, for your test automation? That's a good question. I think there's no tool that's the best tool for each and every team. To find the right tool or set of tools for your team, you might have to answer some questions first. These are some questions you could ask yourself to make the right choice for a tool. What is the technical level of the team members that are going to use those tools? Are they programmers, or are they more or less non-technical users? That might influence your choice. Another question that you have to ask yourself is, are we going to use the tool for functional test automation or for performance testing? And if you want to do both, you might have to choose several tools for each of the purposes. Another question you could ask yourself is, what level of the test automation pyramid are we going to aim at? The test automation pyramid is about what level in the application are you going to test automate. Let's say GUI level or REST API level or unit testing. The level of the test automation you are aiming at says something about the tool you need or the set of tools you might need. And as said before, you might need several tools. Sometimes one tool is not enough to serve your needs. Then, having chosen the right tool, whatever that may be, then you have to use the tool the right way. That's also a struggle. As you can see here, a fool with a tool is still a fool. I think it's a quote of Grady Butch, and I always use this quote in my trainings. A fool with a tool is still a fool, which means having chosen the right tool doesn't give you test automation automatically. You have to start with the right tool the right way. And well, the length of this talk is too short to explain everything about using a tool the right way, but as I'm also a test automation trainer, I'd like to help you with your challenges on test automation and applying the tool the right way. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to this talk. These are my contact details. Don't hesitate to send me an email or drop me a LinkedIn message regarding this speech, or when you need help with your test automation. I'll be your man. Thank you.